My child, before you react, before jealousy rises in your chest, before your mind starts building stories that may not even be true, I need you to breathe with me for a moment. Because what I'm about to say is delicate. Your soulmate still feels something about her ex. And no, that does not automatically mean what you think it means. But it also does not mean nothing. Stay with me. Do not let fear take over before you understand the truth behind it. When we hear that someone we care about still feels something about a former partner, the mind jumps immediately to betrayal, to unfinished love, to comparison, to competition. But emotions are rarely that simple, and soulmate connections are never surface level. Let me ask you something honestly. Have you ever truly loved someone deeply and then simply erased that love as if it never existed? No, because real emotions do not disappear like deleted messages. They transform, they evolve, they settle into different forms. Sometimes what remains is not longing, it is memory. Sometimes it is not desire, it is unresolved understanding. And sometimes, yes, it is unfinished emotion. The key is understanding which one it is. Because there is a huge difference between someone who still loves their ex and someone who has not yet emotionally processed what that chapter meant. Your soulmate still feels something, but that something may not be what your insecurity is telling you. Here's the hook you need to hear. The fact that she feels something does not mean she wants to go back. It means she is human. When two people share history, real history, they share dreams, routines, private jokes, comfort, vulnerability, and plans for a future that once felt certain. That kind of bond does not vanish overnight, simply because the relationship ended. Energy lingers, memory lingers, lessons linger. And when someone new enters their life, especially a soulmate-level connection, it often reactivates reflection about the past. Why? Because deep connections make us compare growth. When your soulmate feels something about her ex, it may not be love. It may be awareness. Awareness of how different you are. Awareness of what she tolerated before. Awareness of how much she has changed. Sometimes an ex becomes a measuring stick for growth, but here's where it gets uncomfortable. If she has not fully healed that chapter, then feelings can surface in confusing ways. Not because she wants to return, but because closure was incomplete. Closure is not always mutual. Sometimes relationships end without emotional clarity, without apologies, without full understanding. And when something ends without clarity, it leaves behind emotional residue. Residue is not love. Residue is unfinished processing. Let me ask you something important. With bitterness, that means emotion still with bitterness. That means emotion still has charge. If she speaks with softness, that means memory still has warmth. If she speaks with neutrality, that means healing has occurred. Pay attention to energy, not just words. Now, here's the truth that might hurt a little. Even if she is deeply connected to you, even if she feels soulmate-level alignment, she may still grieve parts of her past. Grieving does not mean she wants it back. It means she invested time there. And when someone invests time, they mourn not just the person, but the version of themselves that existed in that relationship. Sometimes she is not missing him. She is missing who she was, or who she hoped to become. That distinction matters. Hook this into your mind. Memory does not equal desire, but insecurity will try to convince you it does. Let's go deeper. Sometimes when someone enters a powerful new connection, it triggers comparison. Not because they are choosing between two people, but because they are recognizing the contrast. If you treat her with respect that she never received before, if you communicate in ways that feel mature and steady, if you show emotional availability she once begged for, then her mind may revisit the past, not with longing, but with clarity. But it is actually growth. However, we we must also be honest. There is another possibility. Sometimes a person leaves a relationship before they emotionally detach. Sometimes they walk away logically, but their heart lags behind. And if that is the case, then her feelings are not about choice. They are about healing timeline. Healing is not instant, especially when attachment was deep. The question you must ask yourself is this: is she moving forward with you, or is she emotionally stuck behind? If she is present with you, investing in you, choosing you consistently, then lingering feelings about her ex are part of her processing, not her priority. But if she compares constantly, if she withdraws emotionally, if she seems torn, then that is something different. Let me challenge you gently. Why does this trigger you so strongly? Is it because you fear being second choice? Is it because you fear she might return to familiarity over growth? Or is it because you tie your worth to her emotional exclusivity? Be honest. Because sometimes the pain we feel is less about them and more about our own insecurity. Your soulmate's past does not threaten you unless you believe you are replaceable. And you are not. But insecurity can make you feel that way. Now here's another layer. Sometimes when someone meets a soulmate, they experience what psychologists call emotional contrast. The new connection feels deeper, calmer, more aligned. And that contrast highlights what was missing before. That awareness can reopen old emotional files temporarily, not to revisit them, but to close them properly. Your presence may be the reason she is finally seeing her past clearly, and clarity can bring up unexpected feelings. But those feelings are often transitional. They are part of integration. Let me ask you something else. Has she chosen you? Not just emotionally, but actively? Because choice is louder than memory. If she chooses you, consistently, intentionally, openly, then her past is simply history. History has influence, but it does not have control. However, if she is keeping doors open, if she maintains emotional intimacy with her ex, if she avoids defining boundaries, then this is not about healing, it is about attachment. And attachment unresolved can sabotage even soulmate connections. Here's the hook you need to hear again. Feeling something is not betrayal. Acting on it without boundaries is. Big difference. Now let's talk about fear. You might be scared that if she still feels something, it means you are not enough. But understand this clearly. You are not competing with her past. You are offering her future. Past relationships are based on who she was then. Your connection is based on who she is becoming now. Growth changes compatibility. Just because she once loved someone does not mean she still fits with them. People outgrow each other. But emotions fade slower than logic. Be patient with that truth. Another truth? Sometimes an ex represents familiarity, and familiarity feels safe. But safe does not always mean fulfilling. If your connection feels deeper, more challenging, more transformative, it may scare her. Growth feels less predictable than familiarity. So part of what she feels may simply be the comfort of what she once knew. But comfort is not destiny. Let me ask you directly. Does she show up for you fully? Does she communicate honestly? Does she reassure through actions, not just words? Because soulmate connections require emotional clarity. If she is serious about you, she will protect the space between you. She will not let her past bleed into your present. And if she is still healing, she must be transparent about that. You deserve transparency, not perfection, transparency. Now, let's flip this perspective. What if her lingering feeling is actually gratitude? Gratitude for lessons. Gratitude for growth, gratitude for understanding what she truly wants now. Not all emotion is romantic. Sometimes it is reflective, and reflection is not dangerous. It is mature. But here's the hard boundary. If she is not ready to fully detach from her past, she must not build something serious with you yet. Because half-healed love creates confusion, and confusion erodes trust. Trust is the foundation of soulmate unions. Without it, even destiny feels unstable. So here's what you must do. Do not accuse. Do not panic. Do not compete with a ghost. Instead, observe. Watch her behavior. Feel her consistency. Listen to her energy. If she chooses you clearly, her past will fade naturally. If she hesitates, the truth will reveal itself, and you must be strong enough to see it. This is only part one of this conversation, because understanding why she feels something is only the beginning. The deeper question is this: is she emotionally free enough to love you fully? And that answer will not come from her words alone. It will come from her actions. So stay grounded, stay observant, and most importantly, stay rooted in your worth. Because whether she is healing, reflecting, or transitioning, you deserve a love that is fully present. And if she is your true soulmate, her past will become just that. Past, not competition, not confusion, just history. We will go deeper into what happens next, and what you must do in the next part. But for now, remember this: her feelings are information, not a verdict, and how she handles them will reveal everything, my child. Now we must go deeper, because understanding that your soulmate still feels something about her ex is only the surface of the storm. The real question, the one that keeps you awake at night, is this: what does that feeling mean for you? Is it a shadow that will fade, or a crack that will grow? And the truth is, the answer does not live in her memories. It lives in her movement. You see, emotions by themselves are not the danger. Direction is. Everyone carries emotional echoes from their past. The human heart is not a switch that flips cleanly from one love to the next. It is more like a room that slowly rearranges itself. Old furniture may remain for a while, pushed to the corners, covered in dust, no longer used but not yet removed. The question is not whether the furniture exists. The question is whether she is still sitting on it. This is where you must observe, not assume. If she feels something about her ex, ask yourself, is she moving toward you or circling back toward him? Because motion reveals truth more clearly than confession ever will. Someone who is healing may occasionally glance backward, but their feet keep walking forward. Someone who is still attached will hesitate, stall, or create emotional triangles that leave you confused. Confusion is your first signal. Let me hook you with something you may not want to hear. If you constantly feel like you are competing with a memory, then the problem is not the memory, it is the boundary. Healthy love has boundaries around the past. If she speaks about her ex with openness but not intimacy, that is reflection. If she keeps communication lines open, shares emotional updates with him, or seeks comfort from him during stress, that is attachment. And attachment unresolved will slowly poison even a soulmate connection. But here is where your own growth matters. Why does her past feel like a threat? Is it because you fear she might discover she loved him more? Or is it because you fear you are temporary? Be honest with yourself, because insecurity can amplify shadows into monsters. Sometimes when someone enters a powerful connection like yours, the intensity itself triggers unresolved layers. You are not just another person in her life. You represent depth, and depth shakes loose what was buried. She may feel echoes of her past not because she wants to return, but because your presence forces comparison. She sees what she tolerated before. She sees what she accepted as normal. She sees how differently she feels now. That contrast can stir emotion. Contrast is not longing. Contrast is awakening, but awakening is uncomfortable. If her ex was chaotic and you were calm, she may momentarily feel disoriented by stability. If her ex required chasing and you show up steadily, she may need time to adjust to not fighting for love. The nervous system gets addicted to familiar patterns, even unhealthy ones. Sometimes what she feels is not love. It is withdrawal from old emotional addiction. That is a powerful truth. people can become attached to the intensity of a relationship, not the person. And when they leave that intensity, they miss the adrenaline. Your connection may feel safer, deeper, more grounded. But grounded can feel unfamiliar at first. This is where patience and clarity must meet. If she is actively choosing you, initiating, investing, defining, protecting your connection, then her processing of the past is simply that, processing. Healing is not betrayal. Reflection is not disloyalty. Memory is not infidelity. But if she is comparing you aloud in ways that diminish you, if she idealizes the past while minimizing the present, if she hesitates to define the relationship because it's complicated, then you are not witnessing healing. You are witnessing emotional overlap. And emotional overlap is dangerous. Hook this into your heart. You deserve to be someone's present, not their transition. Sometimes people begin new connections before fully closing old ones. Not because they are malicious, but because loneliness pushes them forward before healing catches up. If she left her ex logically but not emotionally, then her heart may still be untangling threads. That does not make her a villain, but it does make the situation fragile. Fragility requires honesty. Have you had the conversation? Not accusatory, not jealous, but grounded and clear. Have you asked her how she feels about that chapter now? Not what happened, not who was right or wrong. If she becomes defensive, evasive, or if she becomes defensive, evasive, or dismissive when the topic arises, there may be unresolved layers. If she speaks with clarity, accountability, and boundaries, that is maturity. Remember this, the way someone speaks about their ex reveals how they speak about themselves. If she blames entirely without self-reflection, she may not have grown. If she romanticizes entirely without realism, she may not have detached. If she acknowledges both good and bad, lessons and mistakes, then she is evolving. And evolution is what you need for soulmate level love. But here is another layer you must consider. Are you idealizing her emotional readiness? Sometimes we want someone to be the one so badly that we ignore signs they are still healing. We tell ourselves love will fix it. We believe our connection is strong enough to override unresolved wounds. But love does not erase unprocessed attachment. It exposes it. If she is truly your soulmate, then she must be willing to confront those lingering feelings head on, not hide them, not defend them, not nurture them secretly. Transparency is the test. If she says, yes, I still feel something, but I am choosing you, and I am actively letting that go, that is courage. If she says, it's nothing, don't worry, while maintaining emotional contact, that is avoidance. Avoidance breeds distrust. Now let me shift something important back to you. Your power in this situation is not control. It is clarity. You cannot force her to heal faster. You cannot compete with history. You cannot erase her past. But you can decide what you tolerate. You can decide whether you feel safe. You can decide whether her actions align with her words. Not temporarily, fully. If you do not feel like you are waiting for her heart to choose between two timelines, you should feel chosen. Fully, not cautiously, not temporarily. Fully. If you do not feel that, then the issue is not her ex. It is alignment. Here is the hard truth. Sometimes when someone feels something about an ex, it is not about the ex at all. It is about unfinished identity. She may have built dreams with that person, a future that never materialized. And grieving that dream can feel like grieving love. But grieving a dream does not mean wanting the dream back. It means accepting its end. Give her space to grieve, but not space to waver. There is a difference. If she is grieving, she will still show up consistently. If she is wavering, she will create distance. Distance without explanation is your red flag. Another hook you must hear. You are not responsible for outshining her past. You are responsible for honoring your worth. Stop measuring yourself against a ghost. Stop wondering if he was taller, richer, more charismatic. That path leads nowhere but insecurity. If she chose to build something with you, then she sees value in you. Trust that. But trust does not mean blindness. Watch patterns. Patterns tell the truth that emotions try to hide. Does she protect your connection publicly? Does she set boundaries with her ex without you begging? Does she reassure through behavior, not just words? Behavior is truth. If she still feels something but is actively creating distance from that chapter, that is healing in motion. If she still feels something and keeps proximity alive, that is attachment in disguise. One leads to closure, the other leads to confusion. And confusion is not soulmate energy. Soulmate energy feels steady even when challenges arise. It feels secure even when vulnerability is present. It does not feel like emotional competition. Now let me ask you something difficult. If she admitted she still feels something, would you rather know or be kept in the dark? Honesty may sting, but dishonesty corrodes. If she is honest with you, that is a sign she respects you. Now it becomes your responsibility to assess whether you can handle that truth without resentment. Because if you choose to stay, you cannot punish her for processing. But if she is not processing, if she is lingering, then you must decide whether waiting aligns with your self-respect. You cannot build a future while standing in someone else's past. That is the final clarity of this part. Your soulmate may still feel something, but what matters is whether she is releasing it or feeding it. Releasing leads to growth. Feeding leads to relapse. Observe carefully. Stay calm. Do not act from jealousy. Act from standards. If she is healing, support her without sacrificing yourself. If she is attached, step back before your heart becomes collateral damage. Because love should feel like expansion, not comparison. And if she is truly meant for you, her past will become a lesson, not a longing. But if it continues to shadow your present, then the deeper truth may be this. She is still closing one chapter while trying to open another. And you deserve someone who is fully ready to begin. Stay grounded, stay observant, stay powerful. Because whether she heals or hesitates, your worth does not change. And clarity, even when painful, is always better than illusion.